Hey everyone, Aklalu here. Welcome back to the channel. Today we're diving into a critical step in construction, how to properly set up a site layout before excavation. If you skip this, you risk digging in the wrong spot, hitting underground utilities, or even causing a collapse. Now I know some of you might be thinking, Aklalu, come on, site layout, that's the boring stuff. But trust me, my friends, this is the foundation of a successful excavation. Get it right, and everything else goes smoother. Get it wrong, and you're in for a world of headaches, delays, and maybe even some dangerous situations. So grab your notepad, because I'm walking you through the full 10-minute guide to mastering site layout. We're talking about understanding those site plans, marking out your boundaries like a pro, and making sure everything is safe and sound before that first scoop of dirt is moved. Let's get started. Alright, before we even think about firing up those excavators, we need to get our heads in the game plan. And that means understanding the site plans and survey data. These documents are like the treasure maps of construction, showing us exactly where we need to dig, how deep we need to go, and what kind of slopes we're working with. First up, you've got your approved site and excavation drawings. These are super important because they show the precise location, depth, and slope of your excavation. Think of it like baking a cake. You wouldn't just throw ingredients together without a recipe, right? Same goes for excavation. You need to follow the plan. Next, we've got our survey control points. Now, these are marked by a professional surveyor, and they act like guideposts for our entire layout. These points are usually marked with stakes and are based on a fixed reference point, ensuring our excavation stays accurate. But hold on, we're not done yet. Remember, those utility lines can be a real pain, and hitting one can be dangerous and expensive. That's why it's crucial to check for updated utility maps. Never, and I mean never, assume that old plans are correct. In fact, in many countries, you're required to call a hotline before you even think about digging. In the US, that number is 811. They'll come out and mark the location of underground utilities, so you know exactly where it's safe to dig. Trust me, it's always better to be safe than sorry. Okay, now that we've got our plans in order, it's time to prep the site for action. This step is all about getting the area ready for excavation, and it's crucial for a smooth operation. First things first, we need to clear the stage. That means removing any obstacles that might get in our way. We're talking trees, rocks, debris, anything that could interfere with the excavation process. Think of it like this: we're creating a blank canvas for our construction masterpiece. Now here comes a critical step that you absolutely cannot skip. Calling your local utility service to mark those underground lines. We're talking gas, water, electrical. These are not things you want to mess with. Hitting one of these lines could be incredibly dangerous, not to mention costly. The utility company will send someone out to the site and clearly mark the location of these lines, usually with paint or flags. This step can literally save lives, so please don't even think about skipping it. And here's a pro tip. If any utilities are found within the excavation area, you'll need to adjust your plan accordingly. This might mean shifting the excavation slightly or taking extra precautions during the digging process. Remember, safety first. With the site prepped and ready, it's time to lay down the law, the layout law that is. This is where we establish the precise boundaries and elevations for our excavation, ensuring everything goes according to plan. Remember those survey control points we talked about earlier? Well, now they come into play. Using specialized equipment and techniques, surveyors will establish a network of control points across the site. These points are like the anchors of our layout, providing a fixed reference for all our measurements. Now, to connect the dots, we use batter boards and string lines. Batter boards are sturdy horizontal boards mounted on stakes, placed outside the excavation area. We then run string lines between these boards, creating a grid that outlines the perimeter of our dig. This grid is crucial for accuracy. By carefully measuring and adjusting the string lines, we can precisely define the excavation boundaries and ensure everything is perfectly aligned. And here's a pro tip. Always double-check all your measurements with the site engineer. Even a small error in the layout can lead to big problems down the line, so it's always best to be extra cautious. Remember, measure twice, dig once. Alright, with our control points and grid lines in place, it's time to make those excavation boundaries crystal clear. We want to make sure everyone on site knows exactly where to dig and how deep to go. For this, we use a few trusty tools. First up, we've got our trusty spray paint. This is great for marking out the boundaries on the ground, creating a highly visible outline that's easy for everyone to see. Next, we use stakes and string lines to define straight edges and corners. These provide a physical barrier that helps guide the excavation equipment and prevents any accidental overdigging. And to make sure our slopes are on point, we use slope markers. These handy tools help us maintain the correct angle of the excavation walls, preventing cave-ins and ensuring stability. Speaking of slopes, it's crucial to follow the approved slope angles outlined in your site plans. These angles are typically 1:1 or 1:1.5, depending on the soil type and the depth of the excavation. Remember, a steeper slope might seem like a quicker way to dig, but it also increases the risk of collapse. So always err on the side of caution, and follow those approved angles. Now before we get those excavators rolling, we need to talk about everyone's favorite topic, safety. Remember, a construction site can be a dangerous place, especially during excavation, so let's make sure we're taking all the necessary precautions to keep everyone safe and sound. First and foremost, we need to set up clear barricades and warning signs around the excavation area. This will alert everyone on site to the potential hazards and prevent any accidental falls or trips. Next, we need to establish clear access routes for machinery and personnel. This means making sure there's enough space for excavators and dump trucks to maneuver safely without putting anyone at risk. And if we're dealing with deeper excavations, typically those exceeding 1.5 meters, we need to think about trench boxes or shoring systems. These structures provide additional support to the excavation walls, preventing collapses and protecting workers inside the trench. Remember, never, and I mean never, allow workers to enter an unsupported trench. Trench collapses can happen quickly and without warning, and the consequences can be devastating. Alright, we're almost there. We've got our plans, our layout, and our safety measures in place. But before we give the green light to start digging, it's time for one final check. This is where we gather the site engineer, the surveyor, and the foreman to go over everything one last time. We want to make sure everyone is on the same page, and that there are no misunderstandings or oversights. We double-check the excavation boundaries, the slope angles, the location of utilities, everything. It's always better to catch a mistake now than to have to fix it later. Once everyone gives the thumbs up, we can finally start excavating. Now, if we're dealing with grading, it's generally best to start from the highest point and work our way down. This helps manage the flow of water and prevents any unnecessary backfilling. And as we excavate, it's crucial to constantly monitor the depth. We want to make sure we're digging to the correct level and not going too deep or too shallow. Remember, communication is key throughout the entire excavation process. Keep those lines of communication open between the operator, the surveyor, and the rest of the crew to ensure a smooth and successful excavation. And that's it. A proper site layout ensures a smooth, safe, and accurate excavation. If this video helped you, hit the like button, share with your team, and subscribe for more construction guides. Thanks for watching. Drop a comment below if you want a video on trench safety or advanced surveying techniques. Until next time, stay safe and build smart.